Hi everyone, today we're going to focus on the next part of synchronous sessions and virtual support, which is setup and security considerations. Before you begin your session with your students or their families, it's important that you know your platform and understand how to use it. Melnap will be using Google Meet as our platform for video calls. It's important that you prepare yourself and your attendees, and you set expectations for students and their families while on video sessions. Sometimes you might hear things like, the link didn't work. Someone I didn't know joined in my call. I couldn't get in. The audio was choppy and it was hard to hear. Students kept unmuting and sharing their screens, and family members kept popping in the calls. It's important that you schedule and check your links twice before sending them out to your students. Use secure settings in your calls. Make sure students are logging in with the correct account and they're not trying to log in on a sibling account or a parent account. Share tips for sound quality and practice them with your students. And set expectations and use platform controls within Google Meets. And set expectations for settings while students are on video calls. In the module, there is a link to a Google Meet reference guide. This guide goes over some tips and tricks for setting up your meetings. If your students are having an issue with their internet connection, some things you may want to suggest to them and their families to improve their connection is to not use HD video, to turn off their video if they're having a bad connection. Sitting closer to your router sometimes can help with this, and making sure to close unwanted applications on their computers, such as YouTube, Netflix, any gaming systems that may be using the internet. It's important that you set expectations for your students so they are aware of what to do during your meetings. Something simple like this may show them what they need to do in order to be ready for their meetings. Here's another example. There are tons and tons of examples all over the internet for meeting expectations and rules that you can share with your students. Within our Google Classroom, there is a document called Recommended Practices for Web Calls with Students. In here, there is a link to expectations and norms, tips for Google Meet, and there's also a document to help ensure students can access learning. This is helpful if you need to turn on closed captioning for some of your students because of IEPs. There's also a link to the Google Meet reference guide that I mentioned before that I suggest you look through and click through all of the attachments within that. Your task for this module is to create or refine a guide you will use when conducting synchronous meetings with students or parents. Try to include information for the platform you will use, which is Google Meet, and tips for quality experience. Keep in mind things like behavior expectations, how to set up secure meetings, and student interactions. After you have created your guide, you are going to want to add the link to the exit ticket for this module. If you need any assistance with any of this, please reach out to anyone on the technology team and we will be happy to help with anything you need.